Hello YouTube, Dave here again. Today I'm going to be discussing the player core for the Starfinder 2nd Edition role-playing game. This is a book that I'm really excited to have because Starfinder is actually what got me back on hooked on Paizo products after a lengthy absence after the end of the Dungeon Magazine and Dragon Magazine run. I missed out on pretty much all of Pathfinder First Edition, but I really got into Starfinder, and I'm really happy that the new version of the Starfinder game uses the same rule set as the Pathfinder game. So now the two systems are compatible. Before I get further into this video, I do want to just say, for transparency's sake, that Paizo has supplied me with a copy of the player core to do like a review video on, or to just sort of discuss on camera, and I do appreciate that. It does mean the world to me. However, as is always the case with these types of videos, they are not scripting or pre-screening the video, and the opinions that I express are 100% completely and totally my own. I'll start by showing that there are two versions of the front cover of the player core book. So this is the standard version that you'd be able to get at your local game store, as well as other like major book retailers. Be able to get it online. But there's also the game store exclusive cover, which has like the I don't know why, but it kind of reminds me of an old like early 1990s, late 1980s big box PC box for some reason. Because you got like the picture inside of the border there, you have the title up top, you kind of have like the metallic background for it, and then you've got the author's names, but it's kind of cutting across the corner there, almost where like you would see like the minimum requirements for your computer back in the day to run like the software. So I don't know, it's just kind of neat to have these different versions of the cover. This is only available at your local game stores, and it does retail for the same price as the regular player core. So let's take a look here. So what this is the finalized version of the Starfinder 2nd Edition role-playing game. So unlike the playtest rules that came out a while ago, they actually required you to have the Pathfinder player and GM core books as well in order to be able to run the game, because this only presented the new material. It didn't reprint anything that would have appeared in the Pathfinder book. So, for example, spells like Heal or Force Barrage or Fireball, like none of those were included in this booklet. This was just for the new playtest material, and to have the full access to like the spell list, you could use the combination of this book and the Pathfinder player core. But this is the fully self-contained rule set. It does not require you to have the Pathfinder 2nd Edition rules. However, the two systems are the exact same as far as like the rules mechanics are concerned. So it's your 3-action economy. The classes are designed with sort of the same philosophies and game mechanics in mind. So you can use Starfinder and Pathfinder characters interchangeably with one another. In fact, my current ongoing Starfinder 2e, what was the playtest campaign, several of the characters are playing so some characters are playing Pathfinder characters, the others are playing Starfinder characters, and having things like the Fighter and the Bard, for example, being available through the Pathfinder book, it has influenced some of the design decisions behind some of the classes here in the Starfinder book. So we're not going to go through and flip through the entire book or anything, but I will try to find some things to look at here. One of my favorite art pieces is pretty early on in the book. And this was actually pointed out on Blue Sky, I think it was, but I absolutely adore this picture too now that I've seen it like in person. But you've got like it looks like vacationers on Absalom Station, and you've got like some Vesk here. But my favorite are like this Vesk family with the child wearing the propeller hat and just having like the giant doe eyes, and then the father here wearing a Hawaiian shirt, and then you've got a Skittermander icon who looks like they are live streaming or uploading selfies on 4 different devices all at the same time. I just absolutely love that concept there. Some really cool stuff. And so like I said, I love the artwork, and again, the ideas as much as I love Pathfinder Second Edition, and I do, I really feel like the designers for Starfinder are just able to let loose and come up with some of the most like off the wall, bizarre ideas, but they work and they make sense within the context of that world, and I'm absolutely all there for it. Again, I'm not going to go through everything here. I can do separate videos later on if we'll sort of talk about that as well when the time comes. But I want to point out, again, I'm not going to point out every single difference, but there are a few that stood out to me pretty early on. Now, I've had this book for a little less than a week now, and during the course of that week, I had 4 days in a row, including the day that I got this book, where I was running different game systems and actually finishing up 2 pretty major story elements in my ongoing like long-term campaigns. I wrapped up another long-term campaign on Thursday. I wrapped up a game that I was running on Friday. Saturday, I was my Pathfinder Starfinder game, and they finished the historical record that was the first chapter of the Claws of the Tyrant book, which I'm kind of sprinkling in with the Starfinder campaign. And then the next day, I ran a Savage Tide game using the Dungeon magazine that Paizo published, their final adventure path for that version of the game. So I've been really busy and haven't had a huge chance to look through a lot of things here, but there were a few things that did stick out to me. So number one is with the Envoy here. The Envoy in first edition Pathfinder, or Starfinder, I should say. I'm probably gonna confuse those two a lot, so just bear with me. But in first edition Starfinder, the Envoy to me felt a lot like the Bard class. And they focus pretty much on like some minor buffs and some other like diplomatic abilities or social abilities that they had access to, kind of thing. But in the second edition version of the game, because the Bard class already exists in Pathfinder and is fully compatible with the new rule set, they've tweaked the Envoy, and it kind of plays like a combination of a Bard and a Warlord from D&D 4th edition. And I really like the Warlord class. So you've got the Bards with the abilities to have the players like reposition themselves, or to give them bonuses on specific actions, to get them to, target certain enemies with bonuses to do so. Really, really cool stuff. But the Envoys here, they get abilities called Envoy Directives. And in the playtest, just find the Envoy class here. I don't want to go too far. So the Envoy directives in the full rule set are actually different from the directives in the first one. So for example, you see the Get 'em ability is only one action here, whereas in the final rules it's actually a 2 action. Then they've got other abilities here like let's see, from the front, from the shadows. I think some of the styles here have changed a little bit as well. So from the front, gives you the acts of... Okay, so it just gives you a few like skill things, but they also give you these new abilities here that you can get. So for example, you've got Into Position, which I don't actually see in the playtest here, but again, they are 1 or 2 action, whereas before, again, they were kind of just like a 1 action type of ability. So they've added some versatility to those Envoy abilities, which is really cool to see. Another thing here, when we get to, and again, I haven't had enough time to really sit down and look at everything too closely. I think the Mystic is fairly similar, although there are, again, some like slight tweaks. Some abilities may have been renamed or redone, but we've got the one I want to show here are the Solarians. So they're kind of like your stellar paladins, or your, if you want to call them Jedi, you can call them Jedi, but they basically like worship and venerate kind of like the sun or the forces of space. So you have like gravity and photons. But in the playtest, the Solarians, let me find them here again. Operative went too far. So the Solarians had an ability called, or had the Solarian arrangements. And these were abilities that would be sort of, that could affect your attunement, or it might switch your attunement after you perform a particular action. And they were actually removed from the final version of the game, and instead the abilities that were part of the arrangements have been reproduced as feats. So they're no longer like tied to that ability, because that ability's gone. But for example, like, what do we got here? Black Hole was one of the abilities that you get with the arrangements. So was, I think, Nimbus Ward. I think Nimbus Block was another one. So they just took those abilities, Flicker Strike. They took those abilities and they actually just made them feats now, as opposed to the arrangement thing. Which I was talking to my player who's playing a Solarium, and he seems to think that it was done to make it just sort of easier to mitigate, easier to sort of implement into the character. It might have been done in sort of a clunky manner in the playtest, so just converting them to feats instead makes things a little bit easier, I guess. So I'd have to look a little bit deeper into that. But they also did, I know they did change the Careful Strike ability, which is one that he was using from the playtest here, where if you missed on your attack roll, you would do minimum damage. Whereas here now, you simply do your ability score, like your strength modifier, to damage. And it's kind of a bummer, but it does put it more in line with how other modern RPGs handle similar abilities to still deal damage on a miss. So it's a bit of a change, but again, the Solarian class is the one that I guess I've looked at the most, even though I haven't had a chance to look at it too much, just because I've got a player currently playing that version of the class. But then we get into the Soldier, and this is what's kind of neat, again, about the fact that the Pathfinder books are fully compatible with this one. Because the Soldier in Starfinder First Edition was flat out a fighter in every way, shape, or form. They were just the science, fantasy, sci-fi version of the Pathfinder fighter class. However, the fighter class is available in the Pathfinder Player Core book, so they didn't want the Soldier to sort of like double dip into that. So instead, the soldiers are now just more about either wielding like ridiculously heavy weapons, or like using AoE type of attacks, or just like hunkering down in like their armor and stuff like that. So they're more specialized, and they actually use their constitution as their key attribute and not strength or dexterity like the normal fighter class. So you've got a character that specializes in using like unwieldy or heavy equipment, in ways that other classes wouldn't be able to, as opposed to just being like sort of the versatile fighter class that you could build with the Pathfinder rules. So again, like the two can coexist in the same world. So I kind of like the fact that they retooled the way that they designed the soldiers, because again, like that's just awesome looking there. So we have stuff like that, and of course, because this is the full rules, we do have the full set of feats, even if they are reproduced. You do have the full set of skill descriptions, even though a lot of them are similar to what were in the Pathfinder Player Core. You've got the feats. You've also got the equipment, which would be pretty much unique here, and then you've got your spells. And so, as you can see, with the spell list, for example, you've got. We'll go to Divine here. So for Divine, you've got, for first level or first rank spells, you've got Heal and Harm. They were not in the playtest, because the playtest only produced what was unique. So I can find the spell section here. Right, so the spell lists were a lot shorter. So there's the Divine rank 1. It only gives you 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 spells. And that's not because that's all there were, but the other ones were all in the Pathfinder Player Core. So they are all, once again, now presented here, and they're reprinted in full in this book as well. So just because you don't have to use the Pathfinder rules if you don't want. You don't have to use the Pathfinder books. This works fully fine on its own as a standalone type of product. But it is designed with the idea that you can use both. So I do like that approach to everything as well. And then you just get the rule sets, and again, some nice artwork kind of scattered throughout there. The concept of secret checks and flat checks, different damage types. your conditions, and all that good stuff there. So, yeah, this is a really fantastic book. I love Starfinder. Like I said, it's what brought me back to Paizo in the first place, and I have been looking forward to this for a long time. In fact, I was running a Pathfinder 2nd Edition campaign and was fully content to just keep it there until this came out, and then I immediately had them go into the Starfinder universe. And yeah, and now there's only one original character from that Pathfinder group left, but that's fine. I'm okay with that. And we've got the new rules available here. It is only the player core currently, so the GM core is coming out shortly, and then the alien core will come out after that. And then you'll have all 3 of the core rule books, everything that you'll need to run your Starfinder games. But for now, this still works really well. Even if you just use this in a combination with the Pathfinder GM core until the Starfinder one comes out, this game will still run perfectly well, and yeah, I cannot wait. Now, I will say, though, because the fact that the players have been playing in my campaign for a while now, I'm going to let them choose to continue the progression from the playtest if they already have a Starfinder character, which I think right now is just the Solarian. I did have somebody playing an operative, but their character... they weren't having a lot of fun with that character, so they ended up making a witch character from Pathfinder, because they had the Pathfinder book themselves to actually look through and do the stuff with. So, but I'm going to let them continue to use the playtest until they either re-end the campaign or they lose that character, and then if they were to make another Starfinder character from that point forward, it's just going to be from the player core. But I don't want them to have to drastically redo their character. Especially for the Solarian, where they've had some, pretty significant changes. I don't want him to have to go through and completely redo his character from the ground up. So I'll let him continue to use that. But I do love that this is out now, and I'm going to be doing a lot more Starfinder videos. So if you're interested, if you want me to go over look more closely at each of the individual classes and what may have changed from the playtest to the final, let me know. I'll start with the Envoy and just work my way through. There's not a ton of classes in the core book, so it's not going to be that hard to go through and do. But if you're interested in that, let me know. And we'll be doing a character creation video very shortly as well. It's pretty much the same as what it was for the playtest, but we're still going to do it using the actual core rulebook, so that's going to be coming up. And I do have some other Starfinder 2nd Edition items that we'll be doing videos on in the next little while as well, so I'm really looking forward to that. Anyway, thank you all so much for your time. I truly appreciate it. These are just my early thoughts on the Starfinder on the Starfinder 2nd Edition book. I'm pumped for it to be out now. I cannot wait to dive further into it. To have the chance to dive further into it. My week this week is still pretty frickin' busy, so I don't know if I'm going to get much of a chance in the next few days, but we'll try to figure something out. But yeah, thank you all so much for your time. I appreciate it, and we'll see you in the next one. Until then, take care.